know.
Do you like scary movies?
No.
Damn it.
The answer is still no.
And just what movies scared the hell out of you?
You really want to know what movie scared the living crap out of me? That sounds like a subject for today's episode.
Ah! Oh, so we're doing a list. Are you afraid of what might happen if your topic is too broad?
Are you, some being who represents fear, actually asking me what I'm afraid of? Shouldn't you know that?
Well, yes, I've got all your files here, but it's a lot to read, and honestly, the organization isn't really big with me and fear, you know.
Yeah, I'll bet. So I guess you don't have some kind of list with my top 5 films that scare the crap out of me on it, do you?
Actually, we do, but what I want to know is, why these 5?
I think I categorized it by how much sleep these films lost me, particularly the night after I watched them.
Yes, so number 5 is Mother. What even is that?
Seriously, you're the voice of fear and you haven't seen Mother?
I don't think anyone saw Mother. And does it always have an exclamation point at the end? I mean, it doesn't even look like a horror film.
I guess. It's a film by Darren Aronofsky. Director I kind of like. I've seen Pi, which was disturbing, but not as disturbing as I thought it was going to be. And then there was The Fountain, which I don't really understand. And then Black Swan, that was actually really interesting. Then there's A Wrestler. I like that one because it was really real, unlike his other films that tend to bring fantastic or maybe mental problems in somehow.
What about Noah?
We don't talk about Noah.
Yes, but can we talk about Mother?
Okay, so here's what happens. Jennifer Lawrence plays this lady who lives in a big house. And I'm not certain if it's out in the middle of nowhere, but probably is. And her husband is Javier Bardem. He plays a role that's even more creepy than his role in No Country for Old Men, which I didn't even think was possible. And it's pretty clear that the husband's supposed to represent God and the wife is Mother Earth. It's an allegory. Do I need to explain that to you?
No, you don't need to explain that to me. Just tell me what happens in the film.
Oh, you mean like the plot of this movie? Okay, well, apparently this house starts getting visitors. The first is like Ed Harris, and then there's Michelle Pfeiffer, and I think they're supposed to be like Adam and Eve, and they break this, the husband's prized possession, which is like this diamond-shaped heart thing. It's kind of like...
Yes, Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, so then everybody, and I mean everybody, starts coming over. And then it's like a party that the wife didn't even start, but the husband insists, everybody comes. Then it becomes just this chaos nightmare and gets super really violent.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Well, let me ask you something. Fear, do you ever get nightmares?
You're talking to the man that invented them. Who do you think sent you those ones as a kid?
Yeah, I figured that. You must have let up, because I don't really have many now. But one thing I know about a dream is how quickly the events, they just happen one after another with very little transition. And then even when we're having the dream, we don't even question the unusualness of it. We just go along with it.
Oh yes, that's what they're like, for sure.
You sound like you don't really know.
Oh yes, it was I who was in charge of the whole nightmare project, but these days I just delegate it. So I just kind of sign off on them and don't exactly, read what they are exactly.
Really?
Hey! Don't bring up my integrity. Being a demon of fear is very hard stinking work!
Fine. Anyway, Mother really captures that, and even through these events that are seemingly random, But they're obviously supposed to represent the worst of human history, like war, there's concentration camps, other just terrifying things.
Someone's got baggage. Speaking of baggage, I happened to find this old bag of your childhood fears. Maybe I should just open it up and see what's inside, shall we?
Oh no, please stop.
Oh yes, definitely some fear in there. What is this about an orange?
Yeah, when I was a kid watching Sesame Street, there was this orange, and it was animated using stop motion, and it sung opera music. I have no idea why this scared me so much, but I recall at least having one specific nightmare based on it that made me run to my parents while they were sleeping. Crazy.
A singing orange? That sounds like a really juicy fear memory. Get it? Orange juice? Orange juice?
Was that supposed to be funny?
Well, humor is always bad when you're fear.
Speaking of funny, you want to hear something that's really funny?
Oh yes, I could use a good joke. Be warned, I only take dark or gallows humor, as it were.
I actually meant funny strange.
Ooh, I like the strange.
I'll bet you do. Anyway, I swear I have memories where I used to watch this round orange on Sesame Street. That's kind of what I called it. And then I would watch it and not be afraid of it. And then I have memories of it showing up on Sesame Street and just me having panic attacks right into my room.
What does that mean?
You don't really know?
I know, I just wanted to see if you know. You know.
I have a theory that something might have happened while I was watching this orange, and it was so horrible to me that my little mind just couldn't process it. So it just repressed it, and that whenever I saw the clip, I would just get very afraid. So, does that bring back any memories?
Maybe I did that. I really need to organize my paperwork around here, really.
I'll bet you do.
Hey, you realize it's fear you're talking to here?
Yeah, but funny thing about fear, there are just some things you just get over.
Oh really? So you're completely fearless, are you?
Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that I'm completely fearless. It's just this one I'm just kind of over. I've watched the singing clip on YouTube, and I feel that old kind of fear just set in, but it's not so much that I couldn't watch it from start to finish, or use the footage when I'm editing this video.
Oh, be careful! You're breaking the fourth wall!
Sorry.
Not sorry. Cut that out! You don't see me talking to the camera!
Well, that's because you don't really want to be seen, do you?
Speaking of things that aren't seen, what is with you and Mr. Yuck?
Well, that was a weird segue, but if you want to talk about Mr. Yuck, I'll talk about Mr. Yuck. Mr. Yuck is mean. Mr. Yuck is green.
You have the clip right there. Is there no audio?
Well, I'm afraid I'd be demonetized if I just played it, but you would know that, being fear and all.
Stop breaking the fourth wall! And stop telling me what I know and don't know.
Fine. Why don't you just tell me who Mr. Yuck is?
Oh yes, that was back in the 70s and 80s. Fear was very different back then. Anyway, it was a PSA where you put these Mr. Yuck stickers on harmful chemicals. It's to warn kids not to drink them. Oh yes, I remember a lot of households wanted me to just infect them with the spirit of fear. Oh, I love it when that happens.
Yeah, I hated that ad. I mean, the round orange I could just avoid by not watching Sesame Street, and I got too old for that at 5. But with Mr. Yuck, it could show up at any time. There was a commercial during my favorite cartoons, the afternoon and Saturday morning ones, and he did, man, and I ran out of the room when Mr. Yuck came on.
Oh, that was a blast. I'm reading reports of lots of good memories there, for me.
Yeah, but not anymore. Yeah, I did feel a little hesitancy when I found the clip on YouTube, and I watched it. But the more I watch it, the less impact it has, really.
Yes, but are you still afraid of Mother?
Oh, getting all Freudian in me. Figure you're gonna go there eventually.
Oh, believe me, I will. But right now we're talking about the movie. And we are talking about horror movies that scared you, right? I mean, it seems like we're getting into some weird childhood stuff here.
Oh yeah, we really did get off that subject, didn't we? Well, I had a little trouble sleeping for the next few days after Mother. But that was more of a more recent scare for me. I mean, I watched that one like a few years ago rather than the childhood ones that I talked about a little while ago. As I recall, I watched it when I was alone in the house. My wife or kids were gone, so that probably made it worse.
Now, did I give you nightmares after that? I don't remember.
Not really. Oftentimes when I see something like this, I really don't have nightmares, but it's actually more the fear of nightmares that really keeps me awake sometimes.
Did Mother bother you because of what it says about God?
If you're asking me whether I believe that God can be a jerk, or sometimes, as the film kind of implies, he's a jerk all the time, I'm going to have to say no.
You realize that the presence of bad things in the world is evidence of the absence of God, or at least a God that may or may not be doing his or her job. After all, if God is all-powerful, and God is good, and bad things happen, doesn't that mean...
Yeah, it could be viewed that way, but personally I still believe that God exists, and I think that people are doing a lot of the bad out there in the world. And I don't see God just cheering them on. But yeah, I can't help but wonder why God just doesn't just stop it. Part of me thinks there's some kind of plan that allows bad to happen so some good can happen later. And it's an equation with so many constants and variables that I just can't even understand at all.
Oh yes, lack of understanding. I love to keep things vague. It keeps my business afloat.
Oh yeah, I figured that one out a long time ago. Even though I can't understand everything going on in the world, I can at least take a step back and try to figure out at least some things.
Like what?
Like I'm sure whoever made that singing orange meant to entertain. Didn't want to cause any fear going on. And whoever created Mr. Yuck wanted to keep kids from ingesting harmful chemicals. Now in one case that fear was made unintentionally, but in the other case that fear was meant to be challenged for some sort of greater good, I guess.
You know, you're kind of being a real buzzkill right now.
Yeah, nothing spoils fear like a little knowledge. Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
Yeah, well, what if there is no God?
Then I guess there really isn't a plan and things just kind of happen. The Earth is just some rock that somehow is life and everything else is just mostly empty space, really.
Go on.
Which means there's no ultimate reward for doing good, nor punishment for doing the wrong after we die then, I guess.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Actually, I wasn't really talking about that.
Yeah, I'm guessing you would want people to be afraid of what will happen to them after death. Yet I will say that even those who claim to believe in the afterlife really don't have any concrete proof. But even without some sort of ultimate judge in the afterlife, good things and bad things have consequences to at least this generation and the one afterwards. Even you can't deny that one.
Yes, and I've seen a lot of people do a lot of good things that have resulted in so much bad for others.
As I've mentioned on my show, I know what it's like to experience being punished, not because you deserved it, but just because someone else thought you deserved it. I would hope that a God over the entire universe understands all parties involved and deals out proper consequences. I'm guessing that this is the basis of the thing that you hate, faith. And I guess I have some faith that is happening right now. But you also have to understand that being on the wrong side of God could incur some more wrath at some point in time, correct?
Alright, well let's talk about number 2 on your list. Raiders of the Lost Ark, really? Isn't that on your best favorite movies list?
Yeah, funny thing about that, I first saw it in the summer of 1981 when it was in the theater. At the time, I was in between 3rd, 4th grade, and even though this film was rated PG, which is considered like G-rated now, I saw an article in the paper that said PG should not cause nightmares. So I didn't want to go see this film, but my mom took me to see it anyway. After all, it was getting a lot of critical praise, and deservingly so.
Oh yes, I love me the action, and that opening scene just Rocks. You get it? Because there's a big rolling rock there.
Yeah, what's funny is how I spent the first part of this film not even looking at the screen. So I just missed the part where he's in the cave with the traps and the big rock rolling. And oddly enough, I bought the Marvel comic book adaptation like a few months afterward. I didn't see the entire opening scene until years later when we rented it on VHS.
Oh yes, I see here. It's the scene where Indy cracks open the wall and then Marion comes in. And then all those skeletons pop out. And I think that you thought in universe that those skeletons were alive somehow, like zombies. Boy, you dove under the seat for that one, I can tell you that much. Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, someone's looking at their files really close. Found that section on me, didn't you? Well, come on. What else does it say about Raiders?
Oh yes, the scene where the Nazis' faces melt. Yes, I see here that like half a year before that, you saw a trailer for that film Scanners. Oh yes, I remember that one. And oh yes, oh yeah, that scared you a lot. And you actually wrote a letter to the station?
Yeah, as I recall, I actually kind of got some sort of apologetic response. I don't know. I mean, it's just one thing if you see something scary on a commercial and they don't show the entire scene. And then you think like, well, I'm not going to see that movie, especially since it's rated R. And it's another thing when you're just at the theater and you're just got no choice but to see it.
Ah, yes, the usurping of free will. I love that one. So, did Indiana Jones teach you how to fear God?
Well, just a guy who can make faces melt and explode. Actually, I remember when I was scared of it, my mother tried to tell me that there is no arc, and just to try to make me feel better. I have to admit, when I grew up and learned more about God and got involved with Christianity and stuff, I wanted there to be an arc. I wanted there to be some sort of God in a box you can actually see, even if it could melt your face. So when I first saw Raiders, I had no idea who the Nazis were, and now I believe the guys actually got what was coming to them for what they were trying to do with that arc. However, from what I read about in the Bible, you could be killed by God just by botching the transport of this ark thing.
Ah, yes. So God told the Israelites to make an ark, and then he would make it so it would kill them if they just handled it wrong. Don't you think that's a little strange?
Dude, anything can be handled wrong. I slipped up on a scooter that I was reviewing the other day. I'm not holding that against the guy that created the scooter. Unfortunately, I can't make the same argument about, say, a gun.
Hey, let's not go there. This is getting way too preachy as it is.
Now who's breaking the fourth wall? Anyway, I can see we're kind of getting to a theme here. I'm seeing that fear is a result of not knowing if there's a creator, or just wondering if there is a creator and that creator's not doing their good job, really.
Why do you think they box up the ark at the end of the film?
I guess that's as close as a theme we're going to get in Raiders of the Lost Ark, aren't we?
Oh yes, you're a warehouse full of boxes. So let's talk about number 3, Curious Alice.
Oh yeah, that one.
Just what in the hell is Curious Alice?
It wasn't like a major motion picture with a theatrical release. It's really short. It was one of those reel-to-reel educational films you see in school.
Oh, I'm familiar with using fear in those type of educational films. Yes, the drug education ones, but usually I like the driver's education ones. Those are always good.
Really? That's the best joke you can make? I thought you would talk about how teachers love to play films and they're afraid of the commitment of actual lesson plans.
What?
Okay, yeah, that was pretty bad. So what does your file say about Curious Alice? Or did you take part in the writing of that particular one?
Oh yes, some 11-minute film that uses animation photography, sort of like Monty Python did. And oh my gosh, how did they expect kids not to have nightmares after seeing this film? Tell me what happens in this one. This is crazy.
Yeah, I actually found it on YouTube a while ago and watched it again. Starts out showing this little girl reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and then she enters this world that's full of drugs. Like, every character from Alice in Wonderland personifies them somehow. Like the King and Queen of Hearts are the heroine, the March Hare is stimulants, Dormouse is barbiturates, and so on. Again, allegory.
Oh, that got your fear on, didn't you? And don't you have some problem where if you hear about drugs or addiction or some kind of health thing, something happens to you?
Anything else that's related to matters of health that get too in depth? Yes. Yeah, it's a terrible thing that happens to me, and I'm told my face will even turn white and talking too much about drugs and stuff like that. I've never met or heard of anyone else who has a similar issue. It's not the way I want it to be unique. But I'm sure I'm not the only one who has this, because the biggest lie I hear fear you tell is making people think that they're alone.
Oh, I used that one against you. Oh, I remember that day when you came home from school after watching that film, still scared. You were trying to cheer yourself up by watching Mork and Mindy. And what should come on? That Mr. Yuck ad. Oh, you ran upstairs to your room and just cried. Oh, that was the fear you could just sense. I loved it.
Yeah, I felt pretty alone in that world. Like, everything was just coming to just make me feel scared.
And that's me in the zone, baby. Surely we can get to you that way again.
Pass. You want to know something else that's strange?
Sure, I'll humor you there.
When I was in school, when they showed that film, Curious Alice, I remember standing up and my teacher realized it was scaring me. So he told me I could, go use the bathroom for a while or something. Anyway, so I felt incredibly sick, like I had to throw up, but couldn't, because that's how I feel when this affliction that I've already tried to describe, but kind of am not going to do a good job describing, happens. What's funny is I remember being in the school bathroom, and I just sort of sat in a corner, and I didn't know what else to do. Now, some kid, a younger kid, actually sits down with me, and I felt better. This kid just tells me, don't think about it.
Just don't think about it. Even I will tell you that's dumb advice for facing fear.
Well, in his defense, that kid is younger than me. I didn't know that kid, or I never recall seeing that kid again.
What? Like you had some visit from an angel?
I'd like to think that we could be surrounded by them at any given time, and maybe there's a good reason that they remain anonymous.
You don't know that.
I also don't know why I have this problem when hearing about drugs and stuff, but at least it's kept me clean and sober for my entire life.
Are you trying to make a point?
That as smart as humans are, we still live in a constant state of ignorance. Again, whoever made this Curious Alice film probably feared that drugs would ruin our youth, and thought that he could make this film to scare them away from them. I'm not sure the ends really justify the means.
I know. I've been using the fear of hell to make godly people do good. Sometimes it works.
Again, also not good. If we need fear to keep people good, then that is not good. Something tells me that people doing good for the sake of actually helping others is something you're really afraid of.
Dude, so what's next on the list?
Oh yes, number 2, Twilight Zone the movie.
Oh yes! Did you know that people died in the making of that film?
Unfortunately, that is what most people remember from that, and I would hate to gloss over that at all. I didn't find out about that incident until much, much later, years later. But for me, what frightened me about this film was its third vignette. It was the one of the kid who abducted adults and could somehow put them in his mind somehow.
Oh yes, kind of in a twist on a kid that abducts adults, isn't it? And then the scene where the boy banishes the woman to the world of cartoons, that really scared you. You always hated those really old vintage cartoons. Boy, that Twilight Zone must have really struck a nerve.
Yeah, you want to tell me why those older vintage cartoons are just so unnerving to me?
Would you go up to a magician and ask them how they do their best tricks?
Yeah, I get it. It's fear. You don't want to have a reason given. God forbid you could actually reason away, right? I've noticed you tend to take things that are childish and somehow make them very fearful. I think about clowns or dolls or music box musics or even these vintage cartoons, and they're now horror movie fodder. Why is that? Do you intend to repurpose everything childish into an instrument of fear?
Again, I'm not going to talk about it. Let's talk about number 1.
Ah, yes, number 1, Brazil.
Well, at least that one is rated R. You know, besides Mother, which I didn't even know was a horror movie, there is not but one horror movie on this list. You know, I was really hoping to get you on something like, I don't know, The Exorcist or The Shining or The Ring or The Something, but nothing has ended up on this list but these things! Isn't Brazil a comedy film by that Monty Python guy?
Yeah, Terry Gilliam. He made Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm sure you probably like that one.
You know, just because I represent fear doesn't mean I like films with fear in the title.
Looks like I struck a nerve there.
Just, people always assume we fear demons like that movie. What is up with that? Just tell me about this other movie.
Fine. Brazil is kind of like a mix of like all genres, but I actually think I found it under comedy in my video store. The problem with mixing all genres is if there's any comedy in it, that one will usually stand out, and then it just kind of gets pigeonholed there. Brazil takes place in a dystopian world that feels a lot like Orwell's 1984. And so there's a very centralized state which has no problem taking out any dissenters by force. When Sam Lowry, the main character, who's working his way up in this totalitarian system, and he falls for a suspected terrorist, it becomes something different, a little like a romance just with a dystopian backdrop. But the mood of this film just feels bleak all over, and it accumulates in a scene that's less reality than it is dream.
Ah, so tell me what it is in this film that made you fear the most.
I think part of it was this shot of a corpse which just falls apart while it's in the coffin. But I think it was more than that. At first it seems like the hero is going to make it out of this evil system with the woman he loves, live happily ever after. And I almost turned off this film thinking like, oh, hey, that wasn't so bad. And then it turns out that it's all a dream. And he's just kind of gone insane in a world that's already insane. This idea of a centralized state that could just come to your door and haul you off and take you to your death, it's just always frightened me, and it's constant in this movie. Like, you could be in your home enjoying time with people you love, and then all of a sudden, bam, police are up the door, and then you find yourself in prison with a death sentence. And this is how they show the future in most of these type of dystopian films.
Yes, I get a lot of my business from that we're probably at the end times thing.
Oh yes, I know that. What's weird is a few months after I saw this film, I went to my youth group, because I saw this film when I was in high school. There was this guy there that talked about the end times and the book of Revelations. And he talked about how all these bad things are going to happen, like the mark of the beast and the Antichrist, and all these things that just made me feel like I was just never going to live in a very peaceful world. Like the world was just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and we just all end up just dying. And our best hope was a rapture, I guess.
Oh, I had a good night with you then.
Yeah, so now every time there's something that just feels really end of the world type that's ready to happen, all I can think about is like, oh man, this is going to happen in my lifetime, isn't it? And then all that stuff that's in the movie Brazil and every other post-apocalyptic movie will just come to life, and I'll be stuck in the middle of it.
Yes, and there's nothing you can do about it, is there? Nothing!
Fine, you got me there. Bad things can happen without any warning and even kill us. I'm pretty sure the people in Hiroshima or Nagasaki never saw the atomic bomb coming. Or, for all we know, the Earth could be hit by an asteroid, like in the movie Armageddon. Nothing we can do about it. Or maybe the whole World War III thing will happen. Nothing I can do about it, right? So yeah, I'll tell you all about my fears. I'm afraid that not only could some fascist government come to power, but they will just come after me. And what's more, there wouldn't be any kind of protests, and the event would even be praised. So if I was killed, I wouldn't even be martyred. I'd just be like business, you know? Just be like, oh, okay, we just got rid of him.
Oh, keep going, keep going.
Oh yeah, and then there's this thing that I believe Christians believe, that if it ever came down to it, all Christians will just be arrested for believing, because I guess that's what an antichrist government would do. And I was always told in this scenario, You'd be told that you could be set free if you just renounced Christ. And I always thought, surely they would just torture me until I would say no to Christ. And then I know I would crack.
Oh, yes, by all means, please crack.
Yes, I would crack under pressure. It's been shown that torture is not a good way to get information out of anyone because that person will just say anything to make the pain stop. So I know if someone were to put me in any situation where I was being tortured, I renounce my God, my wife, my kids, my dog, anything that's valuable to me, just because it hurts so much. And you know why? Because everyone would do that.
Oh, this is great, this is great. I was hoping this would be one of those horror movies with a sad and dismal ending.
I know that I'd still love everything I hold dear, so whatever results out of torture, temporary. So yeah, you'll get what you want, you'll get a good scare out of me. Any given time you could sneak up on me, or anyone from that matter, and scare them. You could pull a prank on somebody, make them feel real scared. And you know what that makes them? Victims, with you, the predator. Not the predator like the cool killer alien hunter, but the malicious one you see on To Catch a Predator. You know, if you want to scare me, fine. Just don't scare me for no reason. At least Mr. Yuck and Curious Alice were trying to use their fear to warn me away from something harmful. And I think that element does exist in all these films that I've talked about. Maybe the religious people really want to scare the hell out of us just to try and do some good. However, if that fear makes them hurt others, then they've gone too far, and I will not be giving in to that.
What?
Aha! The call was coming from inside my house.
Ah, damn it, you got me.
You know, I thought you were some demon of some fear or something. You're about as scary as a fear guy from that movie Inside Out.
Hey, that's a movie that should have been higher in your list, by the way. Okay, so I guess we got the tables have turned ending. So what are you going to do?
Well, I suppose a more satisfying ending would be me killing you or making you disappear, but that isn't going to be the way, is it? You'll always be here to warn me of things. And there's going to be times where I'm going to be listening, and I'm going to stay safe. And there's times I'm going to be sick of staying safe, and I won't listen to you.
You should listen to me, and you won't get hurt.
Listening to you all the time will keep me hurt. Shunning you all the time will also keep me hurt. The truth is, I need you unless I don't need you.
You're not going to hurt me?
No, but I can't say that I haven't been hurt by you. But I'll always listen to you, even if I don't obey. And hey, what has you scared?
I've been afraid that since I found out on the spectrum that everybody's already knew it but me. And even if they didn't know it, they treated me like they did know it, or they...
How is that possible?
I don't know. I guess they sense it, and I've just never been able to feel like I fit in, or just... when I try and fit in, it just doesn't work.
I understand, it's terrible. But what if it isn't true?
Then it's my fault. Maybe it'd be better if I changed.
You change if you're hurting others, and that includes yourself. But whatever you do not give up. The more fears you face, the less impact they're going to have. Don't let anything get in your way.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. You know, it's probably good we have a holiday that celebrates fear, because basically, it's not all that bad.
Are you saying that I'm bad?
Well, like me, you can be. Maybe we should watch a movie or something.
Like what?
Like maybe Mother!
Dun
dun dun dun dun arch, 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 dun 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 dun